Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story? Hello, Weirdsville. How you doing? It is us, once again, Adam and Barry from the What's Your Weird Story podcast, your weekly episodic, well, I guess we're not episodic, we're kind of an anthology of weird stories. But anyway, we're struggling to kind of find our introduction this week, you know, because of it's a weird world. It's a crazy world. It's a changing world. So firstly, I guess I should say, how you doing, Barry?
Oh, I think kind of like you, man, just kind of watching our country push forward in a good way.
Yeah.
It's this is a historical time, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it, because it's like probably one of the biggest things that's happened in recent times that I can think of. I know that you remember the L.A. riots with Rodney King, and that was that was bad, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't you know, countrywide. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's absolutely disgusting. Doesn't even touch it. The way that George Flynn you know, his death was caught on video, and what was happening there is just, should never happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, you know, heartbreaking.
Yeah. And it's good that it was caught on video. Because I mean, so many others of these, we've seen pictures and we've seen images and video, and it's just finally right. We're not trying, and you know, we're not trying to be political. We're just discussing. No, this is the world we live in right now, and this is how we're looking at it, and we're observing it, and we're reflecting it, and talking to you, having our conversation with you guys, our listeners. This is what we do, and with each other. But you know, it's just, it is disgusting. It is terrible. It is the worst thing, you know, and we keep seeing more videos of atrocities, of, you know, horrible acts during this, you know, and people, you know, and people trying to protest peacefully, and instigators, and people, you know, getting attacked. Like you said, this is a time in our lives, in our country, where, you know, we haven't seen anything like this in our lifetime. This, you know, we haven't seen really anything close to this, I would say, since like probably the 1960s, you know. Right. And it's, you know, we're trying to move on to a new world, a better world, you know, and these are birth pains, you know, you got to deal with this. And, you know, and it's like somebody said, you know, this is what happens when, you know, you have 400 years of oppression, and you steal the land from the native people, and, you know, you act like everything's hunky dory, and you ignore injustice, and everything's gonna, you know, when you pile up everything, and it's just a powder keg, and it's going to explode. And it's, you know, it's just, it's this is what happened. You know, we had 2 months where everybody was stuck at home, and, you know, just, you know, everybody was already, I mean, it was just primed, you know, we were primed for some kind of, explosion, and, you know, and it's like, you know, and here it is, here we are. And Barry and I are both, we're white guys. You know, we're from a small town in the Midwest. We don't have a voice really to add to this, except for, you know, we support the Black Lives Matter movement, because we believe that all people should be treated fairly. But you've got to start there, because that is where that's where all the shit's happening. That's where all the trouble is. You know?
I think, and that's such a loaded term. People have these connotations about it, and all we're saying is that people shouldn't be dying for no reason, you know. And I'm a white guy, and I'll be the first one to tell you I've had my problems with the police. I've been pulled over, and I've not even being pulled over. I've actually called the police on the matter, and I felt like they were trying to incite me to do something so that they could escalate the situation, which had nothing to do with the reason why I'd called them. You know, I'm tattooed. I've got sleeves, and I think that in their mind sometimes that raises some red flags. But at the same time, I got to say this, man. I know a lot of police officers. The gentleman that we bought our house from is a police officer, and he's a great guy. And it's important that we don't put people into just these sort of blanket categories, you know. But also, we got to realize that in a lot of ways, I think our police officers are not properly trained.
Yeah.
And we're asking them to do an impossible job. I mean, you're asking somebody to deal with, you know, a lot of times the worst of humanity on a daily basis. You know, they're getting called from people, you know, in dire circumstances and not the best of situations a lot of times. And they go home to their families and they have a lot of pimped up sort of, you know, I call it PTSD, you know, we don't give them tools to deal with it, and then we stick them on the street, and we expect them to be, you know, an upstanding citizen who is, you know, in charge of people. And without getting too into that whole idea, it's just not a natural state of human behavior to police people. You know, you give somebody a gun, and then you put them into a situation, and you tell them that they have the power to react in the way that they see fit. And, you know, in this situation, a gentleman who had, you know, apparently tried to buy something with a fake, you know, $20 bill is now, you know,
allegedly,
allegedly,
we don't know.
Whatever the story is, he's no longer with us, you know, and that is, it's a shame. It's a shame. And I hope, I was thinking about this the other day. We got a long way to go, man.
Oh, yeah, we definitely do, man.
We've made strides, but we got a long way to go.
Yeah, we've made strides, and like you know, as you were saying about, you know, police officers, they are humans, you know, but they also, you know, I mean, they need to be held accountable. Is, you know, that's one thing that, you know, and everybody, for whatever you do, you know, in life,
be held accountable, man.
You have to be held accountable.
Right.
You know, you shouldn't be. You know, you don't get to skate free just because you're this color, or you have this position, or you are have this much money, or whatever.
Right.
If you do something wrong and you break a crime, you break the law, you commit a crime, you know, whatever it is, you know, you have to be held accountable, you know. And if you kill somebody, you know, you have to be held accountable. Yep. Even if it's an accidental death, you still have to go through the process of saying yes.
Right.
Because, you know, if you killed somebody at your job mowing, you know, you know, even by accident, you're going to be charged, and they're going to send you, you know, you're going to go through the court system, and you're going to be, you know, and you're going to be handled fairly and properly. You know, you can't just say, well, you know, you can't throw in other factors. You have to look at everything from this is what it is.
Right. That's a good place to land, I think, you know, as far as looking at the world. And, you know, we're not happy with, or at least I'm not happy with the looting and things like that. I understand. I get it. I get the anger. I get the frustration. But
I don't think that white people should be a part of that. I think our role in this should only be as support. This is a time for us to shut up and listen.
Right.
You know,
I agree with that.
And not be action. The action you take is, you know, you get out there. If you're going to protest, you get out there and you protest, and you stand in front of people, you know, and you help people, and you pick up people that are hurt, and you do all that stuff.
Right.
You know? You don't go and break shit. You don't go and loot. This is not what that's for.
Absolutely. And that violence isn't the answer, man. I mean, it just, and if anything, it perpetuates the problem. You know, and again, I get it. I get the anger, and I get the frustration, but at the same time, at a certain point, you got to come to the table. You got to sit down, and you got to. Well,
the other side of the table has to come to it as well, and that's what this is about.
Right, absolutely, and it takes time. It takes time to do that. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it. And I appreciate.
Yeah, we could go on, but we don't need to.
Right. There's plenty of other people that are going on about it. So, but we want to try to kind of give folks, you know, a break from that. And with that, we've got a really great guest on the podcast today.
Yeah, we've got a guy he's a musician from Charlotte, North Carolina. He goes by the name Bub Holla. And he found us through our buddy Emotron. You know, Tron's got us another guest come on, and he keeps finding us and sending people to us. So we appreciate Tron for all his support, his network of friends who have weird stories that come and share. And so we got Bub on, and he's got some really cool stories about when he was a little kid, and they're really cool. They're creepy and they're a lot of fun. So Bub, thank you for joining us. What's your weird story?
My weird story started when the first one was, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and we lived in this little town here in North Carolina, and we had a house fire. So my brother and I shared a bedroom, and it had the baseboard heaters.
Yep.
And his blanket got into the heater somehow. But he didn't know till his pajamas and everything were literally on fire.
Whoa, dude.
And it was a small little mill house, you know, so the rooms are really small.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asleep in the bed next to him. And my weird part of the story is my recollection of this. It was an out-of-body experience. That I felt like I was in the eyes of my mother.
Oh, wow.
And she came in because I literally have a visual memory in my head from her perspective, walking into the room, my brother on fire over on the left, and me laying there, and the room was filled with smoke, and her scooping me up and taking me outside.
Wow, dude.
And my stepfather threw the window open and went outside because there was a garden hose right there. And he hosed down my brother, get him off, you know, get him out of the fire. But it in my mind, because people have told me, like my brother and my mom when she was alive, told me that was just something I made up in my head from hearing the story.
Right.
But I know the difference from a thought memory and an actual visual memory. It's a visual memory. Like when I think of that, that's what I see.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's wild. That's amazing. But like, I understand where, like, I understand where you are coming from as far as like when people are telling you that, oh, you're too young to remember that, so you're just formulating that from what you've been told. Because I have memories from when I was like 2 years old that I know are real, because they were pretty big, impactful memories. You know, I mean, I drove a car when I was 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I hit it into reverse. It went down a ice covered driveway across the street, across the yard, and into the house across the street. And I remember that. Everybody's like, no.
That's an infamous story.
Yeah, it's a very infamous story around our parts. But like, I remember it, and I remember my mom running by. I remember my whole logic is like, you know, I got behind the wheel and I'm Batman, you know, because it was in our old I think like 1978 or 70 something station wagon. The green paneling and the wood sides, you know, that we had. And I remember it, you know, and I remember being in my house looking out the front glass door window at the workers patching the hole a couple of days later. And my brother coming over and telling me, he's like, you see that? You did that. So, you know, but yeah, everybody tells me you can't remember that because you're too little. Well, when something intense like that happens, you can remember that. And I can't even, your story is even more intense and more bizarre. And I think that, to me, that totally verifies that, yeah, this happened because, because you know it when it's real, like you said, and that happened. I know it. I believe you, because like it's a strange event. Like you said, an out of body experience.
Yeah.
And maybe you left your body while you were sleeping. People think sometimes that happens.
The room was full of smoke.
Right.
So maybe I had some type of smoke inhalation.
That's very true.
That would be the only thing I could think of. But I don't have any memory of leaving the house. I just see from her perspective coming in. And I see the glow from my brother's, fire, and it's just wild.
It is wild. Was your brother okay? Did he?
Yeah, he was fine. He's 8 years older than I am, so he would have been whatever, 14 or 12.
That's good. That's good at least.
Yeah. So actually, the next story, there's 3 parts to it, but they're all about the same place, because we ended up moving. It's in the same town where we had the fire, and there's actually a small mountain, and on top of that mountain was a mansion that was built in, I believe, the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the dude that owned the town. When the town was built, he lived up there.
Right.
And my stepfather somehow at the time knew somebody that owned it, that owned the land, and they were having a lot of vagrants go up there and crash the house and crash it. And so they invited us to live there to, keep people out of there.
Oh, wow.
And so we did that. I think I was 6 when we moved in there. So the fire story, I guess, would have had to have been like 5. But this mansion, it had 39 rooms. It was huge. Damn. I mean, huge. And old, and when you walked in the front door, there was actually 2 living rooms. So there was a living room that was on the same level that you walked in, and then it stepped down like 2 stairs into a sunken living room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
there was a wall, of the main part of the house, that both living rooms touched this wall. Well, when you go through the doorway, which led into, there were like three kitchens. They're the size of kitchens. It really only had 1 kitchen, but I guess they would have had, people working in there, whenever they lived there, like butlers and maids and all that. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, you walk through that room into that first kitchen, and if you turn left immediately, there's a stairwell that you have to step up 2 steps, so it then becomes the same level as that main living room. And that wall that connects the hallway where the stairwell is and the 2 living rooms, there was a door from the first living room also into that little hallway. Well, that door, when we moved into that house, it wouldn't open. The door just would not open. They didn't have keys for it. I can't remember if it was a skeleton key or it seemed something like that. Mm-hmm. It had some type of lock mechanism, but they could never get it open. They tried when we first got in there, and just because it wouldn't open and because you could get to both sides of the door, so it didn't really matter that it opened. We just didn't think anything of it. And I think we lived there from when I was 6 till when I was 11. And it was like probably around the time, like a year before we moved out of there. We came home one evening and that door was wide open.
Really?
Dude.
We lived there. Yeah, we lived there for like 5 years, and nobody could get that door open. And we come home one day, and it's standing wide open.
That is creepy.
It's super, and it's so crazy because it, like I said, you could get to both sides of the door. It wasn't like it was barring you from going anywhere.
Right.
But that was just the freakiest thing, coming home and seeing that thing open.
Wow. So
do you think that? Go ahead, Bear.
I was just going to say, you can't, since you figured out earlier on that you couldn't open it, you guys probably weren't even trying to open it, and then
correct,
and then you come home and it's just open. That's so crazy, man. Wow.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that I mean, what's your hypothesis about how it was opened? Any ideas?
Well, I'll tell you, this house, now granted, I was little, I was 6. And I think by the time I was 7 is about the time the Amityville Horror came out in the theater.
Yep.
And my parents took me to see it. So I saw that at a very young age. And then the fact that we lived in a mansion,
right?
It didn't look like the house, but you know, so and the history of the house, that the house was actually built before the 30s, but it burned down to the ground in the 30s. And then they rebuilt it, you know, to the original blueprint.
Wow.
Probably insurance or whatever. I don't know why it burned down, but I don't know, man. There was just something creepy about that house. And my other 2 stories are related. And so if you add and factor in my whole experience there, I think it is something supernatural. You know, I'm not necessarily a 100% believer, but I'm not a disbeliever at all. You know, my mind is wide open to that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I actually want it to be true to a degree, you know, like I want it to be like, oh yeah, well the spirit that lived there just, you know, there was maybe someone fell down the stairs or something going through that door, that because when you open the door, the stairwell's right there.
Right.
And it's stairwells that's it makes a stair, you know, and it's big. Like you go up, it was only a 2-story, half of it was 2-story, part of it was 3-story. And then it had a basement too. So that stairwell, when you got all the way up to the attic, you know, we used to spit down and watch it go, and it would go all the way to the basement. So I don't know if it, you know, like I say, the fact that you could get to both sides of the door don't make no sense, but it's just wicked that it happened. You know?
Yeah, that's wild.
When you lived there, did you have access to all of the rooms, all of the house? Did you have access? Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't like part of.
We didn't use it because it was just my mother, my stepfather, my brother, and myself.
Right.
You know, that was it. And that, you know, that would have put my brother, you know, well into his teens.
Right.
When he lived there, you know. And there was a couple other weird little things like, remember the old Polaroid cameras?
Yeah.
Well, there were certain, like, I've seen 2 pictures, but there's supposedly more than just 2 pictures, like other people had witnessed this. But there would be certain times or certain places that you would take a picture with a Polaroid. I don't know if a Polaroid had anything to do with it, and maybe some people argue is overexposure or some of that going on. But there was this little cone, we called them cone heads because it was just a little imperfection, but it had a very specific, like the tip of a spear shape. You know, just a white thing.
Yeah.
It didn't really have any definition other than the shape of it. But it would be like in a chair, just sitting in a chair, or it would be on a mantle. The 2 pictures I saw, one was in a chair, one was on a mantle.
So was it like, I mean, you said it's something that had like a pointed head, but
a solid white shape, like a white silhouette.
Wow.
the tip of a spear, but it was just pure white, no definition, no dimension really to it.
Wow.
But we just called them cone heads, and we just kind of felt like they were some type of spirit or something, you know.
So everybody,
the original owner.
Sorry, everybody would see this. Is that what everyone kind of would see these?
Yeah. Like we had. I believe I have one of the pictures, and if I can find it, I will take a picture of it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Do please.
Well, one other thing, there was the house was shaped like a large L.
Okay.
So the main part of the house is the foot of the L, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had a 2-story. The main part of the house was 3 stories. Then it had but it was kind of split level. Weird. But the long part of the L we called it the wing, as you would. The lower level was all terrazzo floors, which are like the little pebbles that are smooth, really smooth. And that was like just a vestibule that went out into this big like party room. You know, it had a bar and it had a fireplace, and but up above it on the second floor, what we called the wing. The only thing down there was a bunch of rooms down there, but it was kind of like in The Shining, you know, when you're in the hotel and like you don't go down there.
Right.
Thing, me as a kid, I was terrified of, like, if my mom asked me, because my stepdad's office was down there, and my mom would be like, "Go get me the such and such from your dad's office," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, you want to talk about run? I always felt like something was gonna get me right at the, at my heels.
Yeah.
And it was a legitimate presence, dude. It wasn't just. I mean, maybe some of it's in my brain, agging it on, but you could feel that shit when you're around it. Cold shit.
Yeah. Considering all the other stuff that you've described, it seems like it wasn't maybe just in your brain, just in your mind.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
and the history too. It's an old place. There's no telling what all went on in there. Mm-hmm. The owner of the house did a visit with my parents. He was real old. He was probably in his 80s. And it's some like news reporter or maybe a magazine or something. They came out and they interviewed him. And he had some stories about I was so young. It's hard to remember those.
Say, Barry.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
That's a good question. It would either have to be the time that I worked at a cattle feedlot or the time that I worked for a Greek painter.
Were you his model?
Not quite.
Well, it's funny because one of my weirdest jobs was being a model in art school, but it was portraits, not full body nude. The reason I'm asking is because those jobs may be kind of normal, but we know people are out there that have weirder jobs than that. Maybe you're a mortician. Maybe you're a scientist trying to bring back the dinosaurs or the woolly mammoth.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool. If you guys out there have weird jobs, unusual jobs, crime scene photographer, maybe you worked at an adult educational film set, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Just something that's unusual, out of the ordinary, and, a little bit weird. Hey, those are cool stories, too. We'd love to hear those. So give us a call or an email or whatever. You know how to get a hold of us. Be part of the community of Weirdsville.
Another little weird thing is I mentioned the Amityville Horror. Well, in my room, which was in the main part of the house, there was a every time my mom would go to pull my bed down, there were wasps that had gotten somehow under a fully made bed, under the covers, and they were dead, but there would be like 5 or 6 of them.
Wow.
And this happened on multiple occasions, you know, which brought me to the mindset of the fly scene.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what the hell? It's like, you know, it got me to the point where I didn't want to sleep in there, obviously, as a little kid.
Yeah.
You know, if they got under my covers, well, then they could get under the covers when I'm in there.
Yes.
Right.
But we later found out that there was actually a hornet's nest right outside my window.
Right.
For like getting in.
Wow.
But, you know, that was just kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up sleeping in my brother's room for probably a year.
I would have too.
Yeah.
Hell, I don't even know if I ever went back to that room. I had a little, like a twin bed in my parents' room for some time too, which was kind of awkward. But it was a big room. It was like a huge room, like a quadruple normal master bedroom.
Yeah,
right.
Quad size. This was like an ensuite.
Yeah, wow.
The house was badass. I mean, it had
like
you know, killer tile, you know, like old school tile.
Yeah.
And clawfoot tubs, and it wasn't like modern by any means, though. You know, it was still like we weren't like rich. Like everybody thought we were rich because we lived in a mansion and you know this little town. But the oh yeah, that same wall. Okay, now this happened for like years. And, you know, kind of coincides a little bit, in my opinion, with, I called it the spirit in the wall. So the same wall with the same door, like I said, the main living room is, you know, equal to that door. And then there's 2 steps down and there's a sunken living room that goes back into a kitchen. Mm-hmm. Well, when you were coming from the kitchen and you were walking up, taking the 2 steps up to get into the stairwell, there was a little section of wall before you made the 2 steps up that, you know, jut out and then was attached to the door frame. That, and the reason I'm explaining that is it was literally that section of wall. As you would get close to it. Now, my parents and my brother they said they never experienced this whatsoever in 6 years or 5 years that we lived there. But as I would get close to it, I would hear this ticking in the wall, like. And as I got closer to it, now it wasn't quite that loud, but it was this thing, a ticking in the wall. And that got me to a point, like once I actually noticed it, and was focused on it, it would do it like all the time when I was trying to go past it.
Wow.
Where I would literally run as fast as I could up those stairs, you know, to get away from that wall sound.
Oh, whatever, something, man. There
was a spirit locked in the walls, man, and he was.
Yeah, something was there. Something there. If it wasn't a spirit, it was one of those, you know, those vagrants maybe living in the walls or something, you know?
Yeah.
If you've heard stories, we've heard stories about, you know, people who are like live in the walls or, you know, in the attic and stuff like that. And maybe you had a secret roommate that nobody knew about that had there were secret passages because, you know, mansions like that would have passages for servants, you know, that they wouldn't be seen. And so I wonder if there was something like that, and that maybe they got that door open. But either way, if it was a ghost or if it was a vagrant that was a secret roommate, either way, creepy as fuck.
That wall was at most 8 inches.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay. Then
that's very, very small. But it was definitely something
that's wild.
Extremely bizarre. But my stepfather at the time, he was just a crazy dude, you know. I mean, he, you know, came straight out of the disco era. You know, he had the full on mustache with the, you know, button down shirt open halfway down his chest with medallions and
yeah.
Longish, like not quite touching your shoulder, long hair.
Yep.
You know, just cool looking. But he was a maniac. I mean, he did a lot of drugs, and he would dose people with acid. And,
shit!
And not tell them.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like I know for a fact. This is kind of on a side note, but it kind of brings you to the point of him that at least one time when he babysat me, he gave me some little blue pill and said, "Here, take this," and it just like knocked me out for like 2 days.
Damn.
Oh wow.
Shit.
Yeah, he was kind of sadistic. You know what I mean? Like he never did anything sexual or anything like that with me, but you know, he would give me something to make me go to sleep so he wouldn't have to deal with me, you know?
Right.
He would fuck with people bad. Like I told you about the attic. Well, up in the attic there was this it's actually hilarious. It's one of those like storage bins, but they're aluminum, you know, they're tall, where you can like open and like hang clothes and stuff in them, but they're like a standalone thing. Well, there happened to be one of those up there, and he would always get people messed up, you know, drinking and smoking weed and whatever else he gave them. And he would get my brother in on it, you know, because my brother was around like 16 or 17, and they would take people up in that attic and tell them it was an elevator. My brother and his friends would be like hiding in the back of the attic, and he'd bring them up there. Yeah, you want to check out the elevator? And they would get inside that aluminum box, and then he had some word, you know, he would say that my brother and his friends would come up and start like shaking this thing, you know, making sounds and stuff. And he would just mess with people like that. He was just constantly doing stuff, you know. Like we'd have family reunions and my aunts and uncles would be over there. And I got one aunt, my mom's sister, that's deathly terrified of cats. Like, you ever know somebody that's just like, you know, I mean, they freak out if they even like see a cat. Well, he knew this, right? And he put the cats in the room that you put the coats.
Oh, man.
And he's like, go put your coat in that room. And he follows her. And as soon as she walks in, he slams the door behind her and it's like holding it. And there's like 3 cats in there. He's just an asshole, you know. Right. That's
right. That's hilarious.
So that brings me to my final weird story. In my brother's room, which was on the back side of the house, and the back side of the house is where you could see the full-on 3 stories, and then the basement was even open, you know. So it was really like 4 stories. Well, inside the closet in my brother's bedroom, which was weird as hell, it had a big ass window in the closet. And me and my stepfather were in that closet. Now, he smoked a lot of weed, my stepfather. So I'm positive I was contact buzzed.
Yeah. Most
of the time I was hanging out with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can attribute a little bit of it to
right.
that. But so we're standing. I don't know why the hell we're standing in this closet, okay? Because it was bright, you know, during the day and open, and we were just over there looking out the window. And on the back side of the house there were 2 humongous oil tanks, you know, for heating oil. And they're up on like these, you know, like a stone base. So they're probably 8 to 10 feet off the ground. And then you got the 4 stories, 3 stories, you know, plus the attic and the roof. And we're standing there and we look up there on the roof. And I swear to you guys, there's a German Shepherd dog on the roof.
What?
Walking back and forth.
Whoa.
And looked up there and I looked at my stepfather. I'm like, do you see that? And he's like, yes.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Right when he said yes, the German Shepherd jumps off the roof, goes straight down, lands on the oil drum. As best I can remember, you could hear it hit the oil drum. That sound the oil drum would make.
Yeah.
And disappear.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa. Now that is bizarre.
That's a
Yeah.
ghost dog.
Yeah.
A ghost
A
dog.
ghost dog,
And
man.
German Shepherd, you know, we actually had a German Shepherd. I can't remember if it was at the same time because that German Shepherd did die there. So I'm not sure if that was afterwards or during, but I do remember that. And I would have had to have been maybe like 8 or 9 years old.
Wow, that's crazy. How would a dog get up there? I mean, there's no, you know, I mean, if it was a real dog, you know.
I mean, I could see it. And then when it hit the thing, you couldn't see it anymore.
That's so crazy. Wow.
That's wild.
I don't know that we've had a story like that.
No, I was going to get ready to say the same thing. I don't think we have had anything like that before.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that's the only thing I can ever say that, yeah, I definitely saw a ghost.
Wow.
But it was a
dog ghost.
A dog ghost.
Wow.
Now, the other just kind of, almost poltergeisty, like weird.
Right.
With the ticking wall and the freaking door.
Right.
But that I saw it and he saw it.
Wow. Wow, man. That's crazy.
That is. And
damn.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it because I see it as you describe it in my head.
Well,
but,
and
like, it's just.
That's why, I don't tell that story that often.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things, like you said before, it's weird. You're not just going to go meet someone and say, hey, I saw a ghost dog.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Off a roof.
Right. Right. That's wild. That's really wild. This sounds like a really cool place. Is it still around? Is this?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah,
okay.
Most certainly. It's changed possession, and actually, I think it was probably about. Man, it had to be about 15 years ago. Me and my brother got the opportunity to go tour the house because it had new owners or whatever, and I forgot to tell you the L shape of this house. It's called Kramer Mansion.
Okay.
I'm sure if you did a Google search of Kramer, it's in Kramerton, North Carolina.
Okay.
Kramer's Mansion, Kramer.
Okay.
But you might see pictures, the old pictures of the house, because it was in the Gazette, Gaston Gazette, I think is what they call it.
Okay.
It had some, nice pictures, because it had this humongous. It was like a double Olympic sized swimming pool.
Wow.
That butt right up literally against the house. So that where the L shape was on the inside, and it was 12 foot deep all the way around, except right down the middle was a wall, a concrete wall, and it had a fountain that didn't work anymore.
Okay.
And what I was told is it used to be the reservoir. That was the reservoir for the town.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
at some point. Yeah.
Wow.
Now I Googled it.
Yeah.
And here it is. And it's it looks like it may be up for sale for just a little over $1 million. So, but man, is it something, dude?
Yeah. Well, whenever we went back to visit, they had covered in the pool and then built a little, like a normal size pool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they filled all that in, but and they had updated the house, pretty good.
Right.
But it was wild, man.
Wow.
Living there, kid, and
yeah, I'm looking at pictures of it too. Wow.
experiencing that. You know, we used to jump off that roof into the pool. We had, you know, different spots.
Right.
That you could do it.
Right. Wow. That's impressive. That is an impressive place, man.
Yeah. A really funny thing, the night we went up there to check that place out before we moved in. So that pool had a hedgerow on the driveway side. You know, the driveway came right up around it. So it had a hedgerow of like boxwoods, you know, neck height. So you couldn't see the pool.
Right.
You literally couldn't. It went all the way around it. We get there, it's nighttime. And my brother gets out of the car and went and dove over the bushes.
Yeah.
And went right into the pool.
Well, it's got a creep factor to it, man. I mean, you know, it's cool. Sure. It's really, really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
That is crazy, man. Yeah. I think if I were your age, if I were living in that house at that age, young age, man, I'd be freaked out too.
Yeah.
Especially if I'd seen Amityville Horror. I mean, that movie freaked me out when I saw it.
It relates, but have you ever been like really, really sick with the flu, like when you're a kid and hallucinate real bad where stuff looks huge and then it looks super tiny? I mean, that happened several times when I was at that house, and I never figured out like what that was.
Right.
You know?
Something playing with your mind or something. We've heard some crazy stories. I mean, it wouldn't be out of the norm for what we hear. So, or
maybe my stepdad slipped me some acid.
Right. I can't imagine tripping on acid in that place.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah,
but that's it, man. That was about all I could muster.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Those are great, dude. Those were great stories.
Great stuff. Great stuff, man. Thanks for taking the time to come and share with us. And I know that you've got some music projects that you're involved in, man. If you'd like to tell the folks where they can find you and download your music, or any of that kind of stuff, let everybody know.
Sure. So the band I'm in, it's rock band here in Charlotte, all original. It's called Vortex of Old Men, and we're at facebook.com/Vortex of Old Men. Okay. And it's on all the streaming platforms. You can look up Amazon Music, Google, all that stuff. So the Bub Holla, I've actually got 2 CDs. One I released in 2006.
Okay.
That's called Bub Holla Holidays.
Okay.
And that's available in all the streaming. I don't have any physical copies. I think I've got maybe one, that I just kept. Yeah. And then my latest one, which I just released on April 1st this year, unintentionally, no pun intended, I guess. But, it's called One Hit Wonder.
Okay.
Because I'm 48 years old now, and I've been trying to, make music my living for 30 something years. And now I'm at a point in my life where I don't want the fame. I wouldn't mind some of the fortune.
Sure.
Just enough to make you feel like you did something. And, so I started thinking, well, all I need is one hit,
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Like One Hit Wonder. I'm like, man, that's what I'm going to name my album, One Hit Wonder.
Awesome.
And maybe one of them will pop off there.
Of course, man. Of course.
And that you can find at bandcamp.com/Bub Holla.
Okay.
And it's, BUBHOLLA.
Great.
And it's free to listen to. It's on all the streaming, and it's on YouTube. I did a couple self-edited taken videos, and I got like 3 videos off the new album there. And so yeah, man, I got a song about the coronavirus.
Wow, great.
Yeah, it was a last minute. I was literally like 2 days from shipping it off to be mastered.
Wow.
And a buddy of mine sent me the music. So his name's Dave Voss. He wrote the music. And as soon as I got it, it's kind of, you know, in the hip hop kind of vibe to it. I kind of, Bub Holla, I used to call it apocalyptic punk rap.
Yes, that's great.
So there's some rap, there's some rock, there's some different kind of stuff. But this Change the World's kind of hip hoppy. But he sent it to me. I wrote the first verse immediately and then rode around with it for a day in my truck. And then I wrote the rest of it and polished it off night. So I got it in the, you know, it took me from 11 tracks to 12 tracks. So I was like,
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. Bub Holla, I think I've got some kind of YouTube thing, but it's only got 3 videos on it.
Okay.
There's some other videos, but that I had on a different account, and I couldn't remember the password. So just do Bub Holla and YouTube, you'll see it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put some links in the show data and stuff. But I had a chance to listen to it, and it's pretty good, dude. It's very polished, and it's got elements. It's experimental and rock, like you said. You know, it's got those funk, and it's got some like experimental hip hop stuff. There's even some stuff that it's kind of almost like game show music, and I'm you know, but like
little Casio keyboard, man.
That's
dude,
great.
Loved it.
That's great.
I call it big high, low fi.
Yeah. So people, if you're interested in checking it out, you might really want to if you like. Or what it reminded me of is like it's like a Pepper era Butthole Surfers. So right there in the mid '90s, Butthole Surfers.
Person that's told me Butthole Surfers. Yeah.
Yep. There's some.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
In some like the later Ween. And like Beck, kind of like around Odelay era. So it's like, you know, that
Beck is a huge influence.
That's great.
And there's another group. It's an experimental hip hop group called Y with the WHY question mark.
The second person that's told me that.
And that hit me, and I was like, yeah.
They're amazing, yeah.
Yeah, they are amazing. We when I was in Our Lord and Self Portraits, we played with them a show at the old oh god, what was that place? Now I just lost it. It wasn't Cat's Cradle. It was in Raleigh, and it was the Kings. It's the old Kings arcade, and like yeah, man, like they were that's an incredible band, and like the last time I've been floored by a band was when I saw them, and that was just during the sound check. I mean, they were just amazing. So yeah, you're in good league, man. You're in good company with all the sound.
I appreciate that big time, man. It's rare that you get, you know, good feedback lately. You know, short attention span theater. You know, like everybody tried to listen to it that first week you put it out, and then it's crickets.
Yeah. But just keep doing it.
Video did get like 430 views so far. So
there you go, man.
That's not bad for a few weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yep. Just keep putting stuff out, man. You know, keep doing it.
And then I was just I didn't even know this till today that there's a little record company down here called River Monster Records, and they just did their 6th compilation. They just put it all together of local acts, and they put it up on Bandcamp for free. And they got my Corona song got into the mix. There's 130 tracks.
130?
Wow. Bands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, man. Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Well, that's great. Well, good luck with everything, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and come back if you get any other stories.
For sure.
Cool. Nah, everything's boring now. I just work and play music.
Right.
But I do live on the lake.
Hey man, did I ever tell you about this recent thing that happened to me? I was driving around in the country and it was just after dusk. So there's a little bit of light still coming on out of the sky, but it was mostly dark. I saw this black school bus.
I don't think I've ever heard this.
Okay, so I saw this black school bus. All the windows were tinted and it started following me for about 15 minutes.
Whoa, no.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was at work. I was making deliveries and I just kept making my deliveries, and like it would even stop and wait for me. And yeah, but it was never close enough to where I could see it or anything, but it was following me, man.
Wow. Dang.
That's just an example of another really weird story that happened to me and that could have happened to you. You don't have to have a UFO encounter. You don't have to have seen the ghost of your grandmother. You don't have to know what Bigfoot smells like to have had a weird story. Basically, what we're saying is weird covers a lot of ground here on the What's Your Weird Story podcast. And we love hearing all of your stories, whether they're spooky, they're funny, they're bizarre, or they're just short, sweet, and unexplained. Kind of like our podcast.
Bub Holla, thank you for coming on, man. Those are great stories. And thanks to Emotron for getting him in touch with us, man. And, you know, we're just so delighted to have a new friend, and he had some great stories, man. Great.
Man, those were awesome, dude. I don't know where to start. I guess it was the first story where he had his kind of, I guess it was out of body experience.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
When he was a little kid watching his brother's pet leg get on fire.
Right.
Or not pant leg, but blanket.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of your dad with his pant leg on fire.
Right.
And he shot himself with the Roman candle.
Yeah, another.
Yeah, and like, you know, I mean, look, little kids, when you're 2 years old, you can keep memories like that.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, impactful memories.
Yeah.
From when you're that young. People, we know this. You don't just, you know, you don't necessarily, you don't have to forget all the little kid things. You don't have to override them with other memories. You know, I mean, that's why I remember driving a car when I was 2. You know, and to the house across the street. So,
right.
You know, so I believe that, you know, that happened. And I believe, you know, the weirdest part of, you know, being just because it was so weird, because he kind of left his body. That makes me think, yeah, this is what happened. He saw himself, you know, and who knows, man? And who knows? Maybe when we dream, we do leave our bodies. I don't know. Some people think that.
There's no telling. There's no telling. But yeah, and then the crazy house that he lived in when he got a little bit older, and we looked up pictures of that thing, man. It's really a cool looking house, man.
Yeah. It's definitely an old school mansion.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And you can just tell that it's got a lot of history in there and a lot of weird kind of vibes. You could feel it.
Yeah.
And you know, the story that got me the most about that house, of course, the knocking was good. The knocking, and then but the dog that was on the roof that he saw.
Ghost dog, man.
Man, that's freaky stuff, dude.
Yeah, I'm even getting a little bit of chills right now.
Yeah, that's
just
freaky.
Talking about it. So
that's wild.
It's just crazy stuff. Well, and Bub, we really appreciate you sharing those stories with us, and also your music it's really cool, guys. Check it out. We'll have some links, and we'll play a track at the end of the show, and his one hit wonder. But yeah, it's cool stuff. If you like a little bit of you know, it's kind of a genre blending stuff. It's, you know, like I said, it was kind of like Y, kind of like Beck, kind of like the Butthole Surfers. Yeah. Kind of that stuff, you know.
Super creative, really strong melody. It's great stuff, man. He's a talented guy, man, and we're happy to be able to play it, you know, for everybody. And speaking of music, we've been trying to get our shit together for Spin Jamorama to do the second episode. We're still working on it. But you created a mixtape playlist in Spotify, right?
That's correct. You can get on Spotify. You can go. You can type in Spin Jamorama or Spin Jamorama music mixtapes, and that will take you. Should take you to our profile, and you can follow us there, and we've got at current right now, there are 4 playlist / mixtapes that we've put together, and it's a variety of music and stuff that we listen to, and it's cool and it's fun, and I think I think they turned out real well. Not to toot my own horn.
Yeah, no, it's great.
But yeah, check it out.
Yeah, check it out, man. And if you play in a band or you make music, send it our way, man. We'd love to check it out. We've got plenty of time on our hands to listen to stuff, and we both love music, so send it our way.
Yeah, definitely. And we would love to hear from you guys. And if we have any other artists out there who are, visual artists such as myself, and you feel inspired to make art by the show, send that to us. Send it to our what's your weird email at gmail.com, or contact us through Facebook or Instagram. And we have a Twitter that we barely touch, but Instagram's it's what I like the most because it's visual stuff. But
right.
But yeah, if you find something that, or or just weird stuff, link it to us, and we'll put it on our Facebook, or whatever. We'll figure it out. We just want to encourage more activity within our community.
Yeah.
Because we love you guys, and we mean that. We don't know all of you, but we care about you and your well-being, and we want you all to be safe, as we always say. And we want you to know that we care about you. And we want to hear your stories. Join in, listen, suggest music, suggest bands, suggest whatever. Talk to us, and talk to us.
Yes.
Share your stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's stop rambling, Barry, and let's get on to
what's next week.
For next week, let's take a look through my list. I should know off the top of my head. Next week we have Jeff Wilwine, and Jeff is going to tell us a lot. He's going to tell us a lot about the Phoenix Lights.
He's an interesting guy. He has really, it's been his life's work to put this whole thing together, and it's pretty interesting. I think people will dig it.
Yeah, and Jeff is he's got a lot of information for us, and he's a stream of just letting it go, and he answers our questions before we can finish getting them out. So it's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
What he's been working on, what he's seen, and what he's discovered, and just a really cool guy. So tune in next week, and if you want to look for Jeff stuff, he has a book called Petroglyphs in the Sky. But yeah, we'll have more information about that next week.
Cool.
On the What's Your Weird Story podcast. So yeah, just like I would say, be safe.
Be weird. Here's the song Change the World by Bub Holla, off the record One Hit Wonder.
Got that corona, don't get it on ya. Kinda like pneumonia, but this one is stronger. It's got you coughing, might lead you to your coffin. Wash your hands often, use extreme caution when you're walking and you're talking in the street. When we meet, stay back 6 feet, or I'll kick you in the teeth. Corona, gonna change the world. Corona, gonna change the world. Starting in China. Nah, I ain't lying. Now you surviving on red beans and rice. They got you hoarding and a video recording. Home alone and boarding. Practicing your sorting in the backyard. Corona, gonna change the world. Corona, gonna change the
as always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The stories presented on the What's Your Weird Story podcast are, to our knowledge, true experiences that our guests have